Alright, so today I want to show you some of the snakes that I'm going to post over on Morphmarket, and I know a lot of people have been waiting for me to actually post. As a matter of fact, I hatched out about 100 ball python hatchlings this year, sold about 60 of them at some of the local reptile shows in the spring and the fall. Pretty much just did my last show this last weekend and sold about 7 snakes. So I did a quick count. It looks like I have 41 ball python hatchlings left that I'm going to post over on Morphmarket. So kind of my thought was, I think what I'm going to do is I want to show you 10 of the snakes that I'm going to post first, and then I actually need to still get some boxes, figure out the shipping, see if I can get a discount through Ship Your Reptiles on some of the shipping, and then probably what I'll do is I'll box them up, get everything ready Sunday night, and then ship them out late in the evening, late afternoon on Monday for a Tuesday delivery. I think I can actually drop them off as late as 7 p.m. So if I actually drop them off at 7 p.m. by 10 a.m. the next morning, you should have that snake at your door. It's pretty awesome. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you the 10 snakes that I'm going to post first, and then essentially what I'm going to do is figure out the prices. Essentially what I'll do is I'll price them a little bit higher to cover the cost of the shipping and the boxes and everything. So you pretty much just have a flat buy it now price, a little bit different prices than I'd say normally you'd see on Morphmarket, because most people don't include all that stuff and they kind of hit you after you start asking about it. Well, how much is the shipping and the boxes and all that stuff? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to real quick show you these 10 snakes, and then I'll probably post a link over on Morphmarket, so if you actually see that snake, you can come over to this video and see the snake in a little more detail, how big it is, and kind of the finer detail, the top and the bottom of the snake, really all the details of the snake. I think it's a little easier to see these snakes on video than just seeing a picture over on Morphmarket. Alright, so here is my number 1 snake. This is Flicker. We actually named him Flicker. This is a male fire 100% het pied. Actually came from a visual fire pied. That's where it got the fire gene and the het pied. So this definitely has 1 copy of the pied gene. Really good looking snake. As a matter of fact, I had a male and a female, and someone bought the female. I just have the male left. This is a really good looking snake. No problems at all as far as any defects or anything. Really good looking snake. This is what the belly looks like. You kind of take a look at the belly of the snake. Really good looking snake. Here is the head. No problems at all. Bright eyes, eating really well, nice and beefy, looking really well. Okay, so here is my snake number 2. This one we named Sweetie. This is a female, normal with no other genes in the mix. Just a straight, normal, classic, wild type ball python. Not het for anything, no other genes. Really cool looking belly on the snake. It almost looks like, the funny thing is it almost looks like it's het pied. If you look right down on the very bottom of the belly, these tracks down here kind of can fool you. This one almost, I don't know why this one looks het pied, but as far as the breeding, this is not het pied. Could be a het pied floating around in there, but you never really know. Usually you can see it, you know, right at the end of the tail, right like in this line right in here, which is kind of interesting. It's only on one side, not on the other. A little bit tricky. I would not put any faith in that being het pied. Just a straight normal female, looking really big. Definitely not ready to breed yet. This is probably, I'm not sure how many grams it is. I'd say it definitely has another year or 2 before it'll be ready to breed. Alright, so here's another one. This is Fluffy, which is a male normal, no other genes in the mix. Looking really nice. Take a look at that belly. Looks like a really good snake. These would really make really good pets. Really pretty much the most inexpensive snake I have. As a matter of fact, we'll probably pay more in shipping and boxes than this snake is actually worth. Pretty much the least expensive snake that I'll be selling on Morphmarket. Really good looking snake. Alright, snake number 4, we named this one Boomer. Just another male normal, no other genes in the mix. Not het for anything, and no other genes. Looking really good. This one's kind of interesting because it has, the head stamp is a little bit different. Usually normals don't really have much pattern on the head. That one has a little bit of something going on, and sometimes these normals can really kind of trick you. You think there's something else in there, and it's just a straight, normal, classic wild type. Lots of the classic alien heads on this one, the little Roswell grays all over the place. Really nice looking snake. So here is my ball python hatchling number 5. This is Buttons, and Buttons is a male normal, deep in shed. Look at how grayed out his eyes are. He's kind of freaking out because he probably can't see very good with his eyes all grayed out like that. But pretty much just like the other ball python hatchlings that I had, just a regular normal, no other genes in the mix. Looking really good. This guy's really big and beefy. I wonder if this guy will actually fit in an 8 by, I think it's a 8 by 8 by 8 inch box is what you ship hatchlings in. Probably would fit in there. The funny thing is I also need to pay for a snake bag. So you need a snake bag and the box that's insulated, and then you need shipping and everything on top of it, which I have to look into see how much it is for all that, plus kind of an average shipping cost before I actually do it. And I'm gonna have to figure out how to take some really good pictures of these guys too. But that is Buttons. Alright, so here is my ball python hatchling number 6, and this is Cupcake. Cupcake is a male scaleless head ball python. Scaleless head is one of the most interesting projects, from pretty much one of the hottest, newest morphs on the market. And if you look at the top of the head, it just has a few scales missing from the top of the head. You actually breed 2 of these together and you get a completely scaleless ball python. I'm actually trying to grow up my females so I can actually get my first totally scaleless. This is a really cool snake. And if you notice on this one, it's a little bit smaller than the other ones. This one was lagging behind just a little bit. I kept going back to live hopper mice, and this guy is still a little picky. I'd say if you actually bought this one, you might want to try the live hopper mice and then the live, you know, little small little rats as well that are about the same size as the hopper mice, and try to get this guy up on, what you really need to do is get him on like a fresh killed or a frozen thawed rat, and he's almost on the edge. I'd say once they hit those rats, they can grow really fast and they catch up really quick. And if you take a look at his belly, these scaleless heads are kind of interesting how it changes the pattern up a little bit. You can definitely see there's a little bit more highlights up on the sides of the snake, and sometimes the patterns are jumbled up a little with the scaleless head, and it seems like you mix the scaleless head with other morphs and it really brings out the colors, almost kind of thins out the scales a little bit in some cases. I think that's just the standalone scaleless head kind of influencing the color of the snake. Alright, so this one is Ziggy. Ziggy is a male scaleless head, just like the other one. And it's funny, look at how big and beefy this one is compared to the other one. And for some reason, that last one seemed like it was really picky. And I keep going back to live hopper mice with the other one. It seems like it's really lagging behind, where this one's just kind of, you know, will pretty much eat anything at this size. Sometimes they can kind of lag behind, but usually once they hit to a certain point, they really, it doesn't really matter if they're big or small right out of the chute, because they definitely catch up over time. This snake is, you take a look at the belly on this one. This is a really good looking snake. It's kind of interesting how the scaleless head kind of changes things up just a little bit, makes it a little more intense, gives it a little more highlights. I think the scaleless head definitely does something to the genetics just as a standalone. You can tell the pattern is a little bit jumbled up too. Alright, so here is my ball python hatchling number 8. This one is Bubbles. And Bubbles is a female pinstripe, 100% het desert ghost. Really good looking snake. And actually, desert ghost, I think, is one of the newest up and coming genes in the hobby that is really gonna hit. It's really gonna take off. There's not a lot of stuff here in Colorado. As a matter of fact, I think I've only ever seen 1 or 2 visual desert ghosts here in Colorado. Not a lot. I actually produce produced a lot of hets this year. This is one of them. I produced some other ones, and this, I would say, Desert Ghost is one of the most impressive if you can actually make a visual, especially with Pinstripe or Pastel. Makes for a really stunning snake. And the bellies on the Pinstripes are pretty much always pretty clear. You can see a little bit of speckling along the belly, which is kind of interesting on this one. I've never really seen that kind of speckling on a Pinstripe belly. It's usually more clear than that. Really good looking snake. And if you take a look at the head, nice, no problems at all. None of these snakes have any damage or defects or anything. As far as I've seen, no problems at all. Alright, so here is my ball python hatchling number 9, and this is actually, we named this one Hunter. Hunter is almost exactly the same as the last one, except the last one was a female. This one is a male Pinstripe 100% het Desert Ghost. So you can actually breed them together and produce the visuals if you do that. You could also, on a lot of these, what I actually like to do is I like to buy one kind of a het because it's a little bit cheaper, and then buy a visual. And if you breed it back to the visual, you can actually get 50% of the offspring as visual Desert Ghosts. And keep in mind, this is the Desert Ghost, which doesn't have a problem at all with the fertility of the females. That is the desert gene, completely different than the Desert Ghost. Not a lot of people actually working with the desert anymore. It's pretty much a dead project, although it does produce some impressive results. The problem with the females is what pretty much gets everyone out of it. Nobody knows what to do with all the females because you really can't breed the females. They actually die when they lay eggs, which is really unfortunate. And the Desert Ghost is kind of a hidden gem, I think, because a lot of people confuse it with the desert. Not a lot of people actually know the potential of Desert Ghost. Alright, so this one, I'm almost tempted to hold this one back, but I'm going to sell it. This is actually a Pastel female, 100% het Desert Ghost. What I should actually do right after this, I should show you one of my Desert Ghosts and show you the potential of what a visual Desert Ghost looks like. Because this is just a Pastel, you add Desert Ghost to it, and let me tell you, it is a really crazy, insane looking snake. This has a really interesting belly pattern on the bottom. And all these guys have been really mellowed out. I remember when they were smaller, they were really nippy and biting, and ever since they kind of reached this certain kind of a weight, I guess you'd say, they've really mellowed out. And I've very rarely have I ever had one of these guys snap at me in probably the last month. There's a couple that are a little bit snappy, but I'd say these first 10 snakes, they've never really snapped at me at all. Really good looking snake. Alright, so take a look at this. This is the potential of the Pastel Desert Ghost. This was actually the dad that bred those. This is the male that was actually the father of those hets. This is what a Pastel Desert Ghost visual looks like. Really impressive. And it fades a little bit as it gets older. I'd say this is a little bit faded compared to when it first hatched out. I'd say even as an adult, this is extremely impressive. Probably one of the most impressive morphs on the market. I'm really excited to produce some this year. I actually have a female that I think is going to lay eggs this year, and if she actually does, I'll have my first visual Desert Ghosts at the shows. And let me tell you, these are really holding their price. Even the hets are fairly expensive, and the visuals are really holding their value really well. Kind of an untapped gene as far as the potential to make some good money and produce some amazing snakes. Alright, so it is time for the question of the day, and they are all God's creatures asks, when breeding ball pythons, can a paradox or chimera just pop up at any time with any morph? And that is a very good question. I'd say paradoxing seems to happen on some morphs more than other morphs. And if you're not familiar with paradoxing, essentially what it is, it's an unexpected color or pattern coming through the snake, usually in one small area on the snake. And it usually bleeds through as just like little black patches on the snake. And as a matter of fact, I actually did a video about paradoxes and chimeras, and it seems like the paradoxes do tend to be a little more prevalent in bamboos. This is a bamboo around my neck. This is Bobby trying to go towards the camera here. He's getting a little feisty tonight, but it seems like, you know, looking through a lot of the paradoxes over on Morphmarket, it seems like a lot of them are in the bamboos, they're in the pine pieds and in the albinos. It seems like a little bit more than some of the other morphs, which is kind of interesting. And the funny thing is, if you actually take two paradoxes, breed them together, you actually can't produce any more paradoxes. It's not really genetic, and you don't really have a higher probability from breeding paradoxes together. And sometimes you'll see just little tiny black spots. Sometimes you can almost hardly see, it's just one little black spot. And sometimes a paradox is really all over the snake, really intense. It's kind of interesting, the different degrees. And when it comes to chimeras, I'd say chimeras are a little bit different, because a chimera is essentially when you have two fertilized eggs and they fuse together into one individual. So a lot of times you'll see, like on a snake that's a true chimera, a lot of times you'll see a line right down the center of the head, kind of splitting the head right in two, and that's how you know that's a chimera. Bobby is definitely not a chimera, but a lot of times you can actually see a line down the head. Sometimes you can see it all the way down the body, and what it actually is it's different genetic material on either side of the snake. You actually have it's almost like twins fusing into one individual. Kind of interesting. And a lot of those snakes that are true chimeras aren't really fertile in a lot of cases, and sometimes they can have some internal problems, you know, because it's genetically two individuals fusing together. Sometimes you can run into some complications. So that is pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.